Uday was arguably the antichrist on earth. He would go to brides' marriage days, their wedding days. He would sleep with the bride on her, rape her essentially on her wedding day, and then one of them even killed herself in front of her husband, jumping off of a balcony because Uday raped her on her wedding day. He would feed people to dogs. He would he actually shot his uncle just to mess with him.
Yes.
Because he could. He was head of the Olympic Committee, and he had his soccer players, when they lost a match, sleep in barnyards with cows. And when he realized the soccer players were sick, he didn't want the cows to get sick, so he moved them.
Yeah,
not because of the people, because of the cows. He didn't want the cows to get sick.
He didn't want the cows to get sick. I mean, look, these stories are existing, and there is a lot of truth to them. There is some information that was absolutely inaccurate about some of these stories and a little exaggerated by the enemy of Saddam. Uday, Saddam Hussein's son, was an absolute crazy person. He was insane. That was a psychopath. It was his little behind child that was a little bit out of control. Did Saddam really allow his son to do that? No, Saddam have tried to punish his own son multiple times to prevent him from doing the things. Perhaps it was one of the biggest malls in his life that Uday was a little bit out of control, because Uday had the power. He was a spoiled child. He did rape women. He did do a lot of these things, absolutely. And they kind of gave him the Olympic Committee to just kind of give him something.
Mm-hmm.
He needed to be busy with something. At certain points, Saddam was actually trying to control Uday because Uday was going out of power. When Saddam shot his uncle, it wasn't really to prove a point. It was actually so Uday was drunk.
Yeah,
and Uday was shooting bullets in the air while the wife of the president of Egypt at the time, Hosni Mubarak, was in the other palace next door, and they were trying to really just control him. And Uday was absolutely insane psychopath. And I think one of the incidents that Uday shows up drunk to the TV station and told them to announce on TV that he's the new president of Iraq. And they had to actually broadcast it, but not broadcast it to TV or through the towers. They had to kind of play a video in front of him, make him think he was doing something because they were scared for their own lives. And until Qusay showed up to take him home, his younger brother.
Mm-hmm.
He was pretty much the mind, the more wise mind for the president Saddam Hussein, because he was a little bit more wise. He was not really in the public. He did not, anything he did not get around, and he was busy in the government doing it. But Uday was just completely out of control, and some of the things he did. I mean, he enjoyed torturing people.
I mean, he was the black sheep. He spoke with the list. People said that he was retarded.
He was,
and you know, he was 6'6", so he was like the goofy one that stood out from everybody else in the family.
Yeah.
He would go to elementary schools and pick up little girls, rape them. He killed some of them in cases, dumped them in the back roads of Iraq. I mean, the man was a monster. But one of the things that's interesting to me is that Saddam actually tried to have his son executed. Uday kills Saddam's right-hand man, who was an Assyrian Christian man.
Yes. Kamal Hanna. Yeah.
What was his name?
Kamal Hanna.
And he was his taste tester, his bodyguard, and also one of his chefs.
Yes.
One night when the Egyptian king or prince was visiting Saddam at their Iraqi palace.
It was the Egyptian Hosni Mubarak's wife that was visiting, Susan Mubarak at the time, So what happened is Kamal Hanna would have a party on the palace right next to where Susan Mubarak was staying. And, celebration in Iraq, they'll be shooting bullets in the air, AK-47. So Uday have sent somebody to Kamal Hanna to tell him to cool it down. And I think Kamal Hanna did not cool it down because he was drunk. They were known to always having parties and wild things. And it got Uday to go himself and got in an argument with Kamal Hanna and end up hitting him with something that ended up causing him his life. And that was, of course, one of the most painful things to Saddam Hussein, because Kamal Hanna was one of the most trusted person Saddam trusted. He was his right hand. And that goes to back up my early argument about how Saddam trusted the Christians. He was his most trusted black box. Perhaps there was some rumors saying that the second wife of Saddam Hussein, that he secretly have, was found for him by Kamal Hanna himself.
Right.
So he was pretty much not just the bodyguard, not just the deputy and the assistant or the bodyguard. He was pretty much like Saddam pimp in a way.
Best
He was
friend.
best of friend. He knew all his secrets, and Saddam loved him like a son. So this was really hard for Saddam to lose Kamal Hanna the way he did. And in a way, yeah, you can say Kamal Hanna was the most influential person in the country. I think Saddam tried to make it up to the family, and then the family of Kamal Hanna showed up and said, we dropped the charges against Uday. I mean,
Well, what I believe happened was Saddam sentenced him to death.
mm-hmm.
Uday's mother pled with the Jordanian
King
king
Hussein, yeah,
to ask Saddam to release him.
Yeah.
Saddam said, "All right, well, if the king comes to you in your hometown, your home country, you have to abide."
I mean,
As a respect, he granted him that and sent him to, I believe, Switzerland or Sweden.
let's be honest, they were not going to execute him. Yeah, Saddam maybe was mad because he lost Kamal Hanna, but they were not going to execute him. And instead, they took him to Switzerland, and he played poker and he gambled on a vacation until things got settled up.
Which then he ended up killing someone there, and then he couldn't get charged because he's an Iraqi citizen.
Yeah,
so he was sent back.
He is an absolute animal, and yeah, they weren't really going to hold him accountable. And
So that was BS. That was a cover up.
It was BS, and they brought the family of Kamal Hanna stating that we are dropping the charges, and please let him go for us. I mean, of course, these poor people lost their son, and they probably were spoken to about what to say in front of Saddam so they could put this argument to sleep and let Uday out of prison, supposedly, that went out of prison. He was in Switzerland with his uncle, and he was just out of control. Perhaps one of the most disturbing thing that I heard, when he got to Switzerland in the first few days, because all of this thing was going on, he started praying. He started doing Islamic prayers for the few days, and then within the next week, he was gambling out at the casinos. What a freak. The family of Saddam Hussein and the tribe of Saddam Hussein has committed more crime than Saddam Hussein himself against the Iraqi people.
His family committed more crimes than Saddam Hussein himself.
Because the crimes were committed in the name of Saddam Hussein.
Because they can get away with it.
Because they can get away with it. And that's why. Like, let's be honest, did really Saddam initiated all these raping and killing and all that? No, he didn't have the time for it. He was the president of Iraq.
But he also didn't stop it. That's my problem.
Yeah, I mean, because they're spoiled. They are his family. At the end of the day, they were spoiled.